is, your art teacher here. Anyway, so I'm going to continue with another instructional video. We are still working on our looms, okay? We have our cardboard looms right here, and we have a symmetrical pattern that you can see. I've asked my students to go back and press really firmly with their colored pencils, and so they've done a really nice job of this. This is not marker, these are colored pencils. These are Crayola colored pencils, so you can see that their designs are really nice and neat, okay? So then on another instructional video, I had showed them how to start and then also how to finish. Some of the looms I went ahead and marked the finish on there. But some of them I have not marked the finish on there yet. I'll just go ahead and do that. So if you're a student watching this or an art teacher or a parent, and if you want to make or create one of these looms for your kids at home or do this with your own classroom, I suggest having a starting point and then having a finishing. And the reason that I do the finish this way is because it could either have 9, 11, or 13 warp threads on the front. It's always going to have an odd number. Make sure that you have an odd number on the front. And it may finish in any one of these different areas down here, okay, in any one of these different spaces. Okay, so next what we need to do, let me turn around this way so you guys can see this. Next what we're gonna do is at the starting, okay, my students who have the right amount of, let me zoom this in a little bit. My students who have the right amount of warp thread, I'm sorry, the enough of the warp thread right here, thank you so much. Some of them, they have a teeny tiny bit over here, and they're gonna have to go back and fix that, okay? Okay, so what I'm gonna do before they tighten their warp thread, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tape that down, okay? So the reason that, we're taping that, if I sneeze, I'm sorry, I've got a little sniffles this morning. So the reason that we're taping that is so that when we flip this over to this side, we can pull and it's not going to come undone, okay? So you're going to pull to the left, pull to the right. Let me turn this around so you guys can visually see this. Let's see, so you're going to pull, you'll pull to the right, okay, with your right hand. Pull to the left with your left hand, working from one warp thread to the other. Pull to the left, pull to the right, pull to the left, pull to the right. And you can see all this slack right here. Okay, pull to the left, pull to the right. You're going to continue doing that. I always use my right hand to pull to the right and my left hand to pull to the left, etc. Okay, left, right, left, right. Okay, and then that's going to tighten up these warp threads. We need those tight. And I've said this in other videos, and I will say this again. Please do not play your strings like a guitar, okay? So once these are tight right here, then we'll flip it over. I have students that say, oh, I have a lot of extra yarn, okay? I'm sorry, thread, okay, warp thread. It's not yarn, okay? The other stuff that I'm gonna show you in a little bit is what we call yarn. So we have warp thread, okay? And then I'll go ahead and cut it and tape it, or tape it and cut it. And this will keep it tight while we're working. When you're weaving, if you have really loose warp threads, it's not fun at all. It's very miserable to work with loose warp threads. Okay, so that's how we're going to tighten it. So when I'm working with my students, some of them are on, let's say, and I've said this before, but say that we have 20 steps, and some of them are on step 4, some of them are on step 8, some of them are on step 16. It makes it very, very difficult for me to work with everybody at the same time. So what I have to do is I have to just be systematic about who I'm going to work with next, okay? And then also have some instructional videos playing so that students who have not finished a certain step in the process, that they can do that independently, because I've got to move on with the majority of my students who are ready to move on, okay? Otherwise, nobody would ever get started with weaving. Okay, so I'm going to put those off to the side. I'm going to use this one right here as an example, and I'm going to start with this color right here. So I've got that student here with me, so I'm going to ask her to choose, and let me move over here. This is kind of how, I mean, I have my warp thread, or I'm sorry, I have my yarn I have a couple different yarn systems, okay? I have one that's up there where I call it my yarn tower, okay? Where I have just baskets that I have zip tied together, and then I have the yarn, just a little bit of the yarn hanging out the front of it in different colors. So my students can come over, they can use a yardstick, they can measure, and then they can cut their own yarn, okay? And then I have a yarn winder that winds these up into little balls. Let me show you that real quick. It winds these up into smaller balls like this, and this just comes out from the center, and it just pulls and pulls and pulls. A little cat or some sort of creature or animal or a child would have fun just pulling this, because the theory is that it just comes out in one nice, neat, continuous strand, and there's not any tangles inside. It does take a long time to wrap all those. Maybe in another video I will show you how I do that, okay? Okay, so we've got some different blues over here. I've got this tub right here that you can see that has a lot of the yarn hanging out, okay? And then on the inside of the tub, I have put all of these different skeins of yarn vertically. I asked my students not to cut it so short that it just falls back in there, okay? And I also asked my students, don't take off the lid and don't pull it out, okay? I start getting panic attacks when my students do that, because it just makes a huge big yarn mess everywhere, and it's just not fun at all. At the end of this skein, you're gonna have like little pieces like this, okay, that might be knotted up, and that's where having some extra pieces of this handy is nice, so that you can, at a later time, you can unknot this, and students can still continue to get more of that untangled yarn, okay? So for your A color, what do you want to choose? Go ahead and choose that. I'm gonna come back down here. You have about, let's see, let me look and see. Okay, so, and this is a color that she chose, okay? I'm gonna cut off, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit further about the measurements of this, and then the exact, like, you know, weaving and so on and so forth. But anyway, what I'll have my students do is for like small spaces, they're gonna have a certain measurement, and medium spaces and large spaces, they'll have a certain measurement. What I like for my students to do, let me go ahead and I'm gonna get 2 yards of this. What we're gonna do is, we're going to go ahead and start weaving. I'm going to show you guys that real quick. We're going to go ahead and start weaving this under on this side, and then over on the other side. Okay, so where it says under, we're going to go under. Where it says over, we're going to go over. Okay. And I ordered these on Amazon, which I order a lot of stuff on Amazon, especially if I can find it cheap. And then I had some of my older kids organize these into just different colors. Why? I don't know. They needed something to do at the time, I guess. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get this student a needle, okay? And I've got a trick on how you're going to... Okay, sorry. I've got a trick on how you're going to put the yarn on the needle. Okay, so how you're going to do that is you're going to take and you're going to fold the yarn, okay, put it on top of the needle like that, and pull it tightly. Okay, pull it tightly like that. Pull the needle out this way. Take the eye of the needle, which is the opening, slip that through, pull, and voila. Okay, your yarn is on your needle. Okay, then the opposite side, right here, okay, this is going to be the tail when we're weaving, okay? We're going to weave our A color first, okay, and then we'll do our B color. This one right here is the only one that does not have a twin, okay? This one is going to be the only one that you don't get double pieces of yarn, okay? So we're going under, over, under, over. How do I know that I'm going under? Because I see under written right there. I'm going to pull a little bit. I'm pulling, pulling, pulling. Sometimes I have students that take this entire tail, they stop, they leave this entire tail there, and then they start weaving again the other way. I'm like, well, what about all of this? Keep pulling, pulling, pulling until you have about an inch left. Okay, pull, 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 pull. Okay, stop. Okay, and then you're going to continue where you left off. I left off with under. Okay, so I'm going to go over, under, over, under, over, under. I'm going to continue to pull. What I like to do is, let's see if I can, what I like to do is I hold this right here, so when I'm pulling, I don't accidentally pull it through. Because if I get distracted, I'll accidentally pull it through and I'll just pull it right out, okay? And then I'm going to go over, okay? I know that because I'm reading over. Also know it because this warp thread right here is on top of my yarn, which is the weft. The weft goes from right to left. The warp is up and down, okay? Then I'm going to weave over, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, stop. Sometimes I'll pull just a little bit, like that. And then continue over, under, over, under, over, under, over. And I keep my finger, let me zoom this in so you guys can see this. I'll keep my finger right there so that I don't pull it too much. Okay, you don't want this to be too tight right here because it will actually turn inward. That is not good, and it's very time consuming to go back and fix that, okay? You want this little bubble. Hopefully my camera can capture this. It's called bubbling. You want a tiny little bubble so it looks like little bitty heels. You want little bubbles right there, okay? It's called bubbling, and that ensures that your weaving is not too tight, okay? It's not gonna be tight from left to right. Yes, that rhymes. But it's going to be tight from top to bottom. We're going to squeeze it down, squeeze it down. That's called beating, where you beat it together. That is definite. That is, yes, that is the technical word, okay? And then we're just going to continue. Under, over, under, over, under, over. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Put my finger right here. And stop, make sure that that's not too tight. Okay, make sure I have a little bubble, which is like little heels along the way. And I just keep going, over, under. It's very relaxing to do. Okay. So I have a group of students who really wants to get started on their weavings and tightening their warp threads, okay? So anyway, this is a lot of fun. It's very relaxing, very enjoying. It's really neat when you start seeing your pattern come together, okay? So before I conclude this video, I'm going to go ahead and get these next two colors, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to prepare that to be symmetrical. What I encourage my students to do, go ahead and find your next color. What I encourage my students to do is you're going to count your rows like 1, 2, 3, 4. See how many rows it takes for this amount of space right here. And then I know that it's going to be, so if I was using centimeters, I'm going to get about like 10 centimeters for each row. Okay, so anyway, there's, just a little bit of math involved just to make sure that you don't get too much yarn or get too little yarn. Don't waste yarn, etc. When we're finished with these, it's probably going to take, I'm going to guess anywhere from 50 to 75 yards of yarn to finish one of these. So it's definitely a lot of yarn. Okay, definitely a lot of yarn. Okay, so this next one, what I'll have my students do, let me zoom this out a little bit. Sorry, this is getting a little bit long. So what I'll have my students do is that they're going to get their yarn. Okay, they're going to measure. She has a small space. I think my small spaces are like 20 inches. I got to go back in because I didn't have that list in front of me when I started making this video. So let's see, between 20 and 26. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure. You're going to hold on to this piece right here. Drag your hands downward. Okay, drag your hands downward. And you're going to cut. Okay, cut right here. Okay, then you got the two ends, like that. You got the two ends. You're going to drag, let me just get this stuff out of the way here. You're going to take your fingers, you're going to drag them back this way. Drag them back this way, okay, where the loop is, right there. You're going to just go ahead and cut that. That's going to give you two pieces the exact same length, okay. One is going to be for above the loom, and one, above the A, and then one's going to be for below the A. So this one is going to be woven as a B color. That will be the B. This one's letter B. And then this one is also letter B. One will be above and one will be below. So we will always, our loom will always, always, always be symmetrical. It will always stay symmetrical. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this instructional video. Happy weaving. Bye, guys.